Well, hi everyone, I'm Dr. Donna Antar, and everybody, of course, including myself, want to know about the coronavirus, want to know the two main questions. How do you get it? How do you not get it? How do you not transmit it? Even if how do you make sure even if you don't have any symptoms? Because we all have heard now that you can be positive for it, but you don't even have any symptoms. So how do you make sure that you don't transmit it to someone else who might be more susceptible to symptoms? So actually, they've figured out now, it's really easy. There's only two things. So we're gonna tell you about those two things. It's only two things. And also, you've heard about hand washing. Well, I'm gonna show you how to wash your hands so that it's easy, it's actually kind of fun, and you do it correctly so that you make sure that it's effective. And the other thing we're going to talk about is stress. I mean, you want to be informed, but you don't want to be panicked, because obviously panic, stress, all that stuff going on in your head is going to suppress your immune system, is going to do things that you don't want to do in this particular time, or actually any time there's viruses or flus going around. So let's start with those two things. One, if you cough or sneeze on anyone and that person inhales those little droplets in the air, okay, you can't see them, but they're there. That's the reason for the 6-foot rule. The 6-foot rule helps for that not to be a spread, because when you cough or sneeze and those droplets go out into the air, they fall. They don't just stay there. They mostly fall. The little teeny ones will evaporate. The bigger ones will fall immediately to the ground. The other ones might hang out a little, but if you're 6 feet away, you pretty much are far enough away, they feel that those droplets can't get to you. So that's one important thing. So when you're out and about and getting essential things like food, gasoline, stuff like that, you want to make sure of that. Number two, no, not number two yet, but also how do you prevent that? Well, when you cough or sneeze, have a tissue. So you want to cough or sneeze into the tissue. You want to make sure it's really covering your whole face when you cough or sneeze. Now, what if you don't have a tissue available? You don't happen to have a pocket or a tissue? Well, cough or sneeze into your elbow, because again, that stops the spray of any kind of droplets. Number two, the way you can get it is by touching a contaminated surface. How does a surface get contaminated? Well, go refer back to number one. Somebody coughed or sneezed and the droplets landed on that surface. So the CDC, all the different organizations recommend that you clean surfaces periodically, just in general. Well, by the way, this is a good idea, just in general. If a surface is dirty, then just clean it. Then you want a disinfectant, and you want to use any of those disinfectants, any of them out on the market that, they'll say things like kills germs, 99.9%, things like that. That's what then you want to disinfect the surface. What kind of surfaces are we talking about? Well, sometimes it's not a table or a desk. Sometimes it's a doorknob. Sometimes it's some kind of handle. Sometimes it's a banister, like when you're going down the stairs, a banister. It can be any of those items that people touch on a regular basis, and you might not even think about it. But when we went around to our house and we thought, okay, so let's do all of the door handles. And we realized, okay, so when was the last time we disinfected, not just cleaned, but disinfected door handles? Wow, I couldn't even really remember doing that. And it's really, really important. Why? Because number two, this number two part has two parts, and it's very vital. Because if you just touch a surface, oh, by the way, don't forget your desk. because you might have, what do you use? You use a mouse. No, not that kind of mouse. You use a mouse for your computer, right? And your keyboard. So things are, or your phone. things like that also don't forget. So touching a contaminated surface, but if you touch a contaminated surface and then you wash your hands, did you get COVID? Did you get contaminated by the virus? No, you didn't. But the and is you touch a contaminated surface and you touch your face, mainly your eyes, your nose, or your mouth. So here's the important part. Don't touch your face. Now, so what should we do not to touch our face? Well, I guess here's one idea. Okay, yeah, we could do this, but that might be going a little far. So let's talk about some real things, and let's talk about how important is it to touch your face, and do we really touch our face that much?
Start working on not touching your face, because one main way viruses spread is when you touch your own mouth, nose, or eyes. And of course, enhance cleaning of surfaces.
Well, we're always saying the common sense of washing your hands, not touching your face.
Looking at every way individuals come into the country, not just through the...
One of the key parts to preventing transmission is washing your hands and not touching your face. You know, there's a lot of folks that are...
Well, we do. Because the American Journal of Infection Control in 2015, this is 2015, this is way before this virus was here. They were just looking at people not passing around the flu. So again, contaminated surface, and you touch your face, mostly eyes, nose, mouth. Well, how many times a day do you think they found that this group of medical students touched their face? Well, it was 23 times an hour. An hour. If you multiply that by the amount of hours that were up in the day, which is about 16, if you're really getting good 8 hours to sleep at night, which is another important thing to get during this whole thing, that is 368 times a day that you are touching your face. So how do you not do it? Especially since a lot of it is a habit, it's unconscious. And what makes you touch your face? Well, besides just being a habit, if you have allergies, a lot of people have allergies, and what happens? It makes your eyes kind of itch. It makes your nose itch. If your eyes are tired, what do we do? Oh, my eyes are so tired. Okay, so we don't want to do that. Oh, by the way, if this is a clean tissue, it's not the other one I used. Okay, so what do we do? What happens also with allergies? You're itchy. What happens when your nose is itchy? Well, if you use a tissue like that, you can kind of scratch the itch without touching your face. Because we're going to talk about hand washing in a minute, but you're not going to wash your hands 23 times an hour, or you would only be washing your hands all day. So we will talk about what we can do. So you can use a tissue. You can also, if you have some hand sanitizer handy, you can put some hand sanitizer on and then scratch your nose. Because sometimes if you don't scratch your nose, it gets worse and worse, right? So wanted to also make it a game with your family. Make it a game. Make it like, okay, everybody needs to know that nobody can touch their face. And if you catch somebody touching their face, I don't know, it's a point, or I don't know, make a game, especially if you have kids. They'll love this. Catching their parents touching their face, because it really is the most important part of number 2. Sure, if your hands you've just washed your hands, or you just sanitized your hands, because somebody asked me one time, how long does hand sanitizer last? Well, it lasts as long as until you get contaminated again. So really it only lasts that moment that you disinfected your hands. So you want to be careful, and you want to pay attention. So again, make it fun. If you have kids especially, or just you and your partner, do some kind of game. Also, just have a tissue in your hand. And this way, when you have a tissue in your hand and you go to touch your face, or you go to push your bangs out of your eyes, you're using the tissue. And then throw that tissue away, grab, see, grab another tissue. That's the way you do it. Now, the other thing that you want to do is, if you're just watching this video, well, lace your fingers together, put them in your lap. This way, your hands are doing something. And when they go to touch your face, you're kind of going to notice, because it's going to have to let go to touch your face, right? So do that. The other thing is you can actually sit on your hands. So if you sit on your hands, the only problem with that is if you're Italian or part Italian like me, then you probably can't talk anymore, because we have to talk with our hands. So even if our hands are together, we kind of have to do that. So those are the things, the little games. You can put Post-it notes all over your house. Don't touch your face. Just all sorts of things to make you more aware. And this is not only for now, this is for any flu season. It's so important. What's number one? Somebody coughs or sneezes on you, or you cough or sneeze on somebody else. Don't do that. It's so easy to prevent. 6-foot rule, make sure you protect. What's the other thing? Number two, you touch a contaminated surface. Well, first disinfect your surfaces. Oh, and by the way, when you're disinfecting your surfaces, make sure you wear gloves, have good ventilation, because you don't want to like make yourself sick while you're trying to make yourself healthy and protect yourself, right? So do that. And number two, you touch the contaminated surface. Now don't touch your face. And in between all that, wash your hands. And this is really easy. Besides hand sanitizer, you want to wash your hands multiple times a day. And by the way, if you're eating right now, you might want to pause the video or stop for a minute. But they've actually recently found that even when somebody is done with the respiratory part of, let's say they got infected and they had a respiratory part, it wasn't that bad, they didn't have to go to the hospital even, but now they're negative. But guess where they're not negative? When they have a bowel movement, can I say that? In the feces, they found it still exists for at least for a while. They don't know how long yet. So, you know how your mom told you, wash your hands after you go to the bathroom? And how it says it on every public bathroom, employees must wash hands. Well, everybody must wash hands after they leave the bathroom. So that's very vital also. So now we're gonna do the hand washing. Okay, so now sink, hand washing. And we're gonna talk about hand washing. And it really is simple. I'm gonna show you the steps. Basically, you're gonna hear a song in the background. It's happy birthday, and it's happy birthday sung at the speed you'd normally sing it to somebody in happy birthday, which would be about 20 seconds or so. And that's about how long you want to be lathering your hands. So you're gonna wet them, you're going to put soap on them, you're going to scrub them in a whole couple of different ways I'm going to show you, really simple, and then you're going to rinse them really well and you're going to dry them really well, and if possible you want to dry them with a paper towel or something that you can then throw away. All right? Okay? All right. So let's wash our hands. So remember, not too hot. You don't need to do it with really hot water. Obviously don't want cold, so right in the middle where it's cool. Get your hands nice and wet. Shut off the water. Use your elbow or the side of your arm. There you go. And start your timer. And then lather up your hands. Okay? And first, palms. Then the tops of your hands. And a little bit on your wrist, tops of your hands. And then your fingertips. Your fingertips. Okay? And then in the webs. And the webs are your hands this way, the webs are your hands this way, the webs are your hands on top, the webs are your hands on top. Okay, and then don't forget to do your thumbs, and the webs are your hands, the webs on your thumbs. And there you go. A little bit on the fingertips. Turn your water back on, rinse. Turn off and dry your hands. And it'd be good if you could dry them with something that you throw away. And if you're in a place where you have to get out a door, then that's fine too. Get out the door, use this. Use it to open the door or turn the doorknob. open and throw away. Okay, so we've talked about the 2 ways that you can get or transmit this virus. 1, you cough or sneeze, or somebody coughs or sneeze on you, and how to not have that be a problem, because you still may cough or sneeze, right? Tissue, elbow, all those different things, 6 foot. And then we talked about number 2, which was touch contaminated surface, because of number 1, prefer number 1, and then touch your face. And we've talked about how not to touch your face, how to make it a game in your family, and then we showed you a great fun technique for washing your hands while you sing happy birthday to yourself, or out loud, it's fine too. Okay, so let's talk about the mental aspect of this. Not that many people talk about that, but I think it's really important. You know, I did 3 extra years in training so that I could also become a psychiatrist. So I have some double training here. And I can tell you that it's really important to be attentive, to know what you're doing. Like, you know, we've talked about on this video, it's not hard, but don't be panicked. And especially if you have children, really don't be panicked, because even if you say, oh no, everything's fine, Johnny, everything's fine, guess what? Johnny knows that something's wrong because you're feeling panicked. So you have to do things that, again, protect yourself, protect your family, but you don't get panicked and you don't get overly stressed. Because of course you know that having a good immune system is, you know, a healthy, balanced immune system is very important with this virus in particular and any kind of flu virus. So stress makes that not as good. So we want to, again, be vigilant, but decrease the stress. So how do you do that? How do you do that when every minute on the news there's all this stuff? Well, 1, don't watch the news 24/7. Nothing is really going to change that dramatically, usually in a 24 cycle. Watch it once, get your information if it's different, and it might not be, or watch videos like these, and then just do what you need to do in your life. And have fun. Use this time. If you're in an area where you're on, quote, lockdown, and you can only do what they call critical things, like go to the supermarket to get food and things like that, and you're working from home, make it fun. Even if you don't have kids, have it be fun, you know. People with kids aren't the only ones that should be having fun. Use the time to be together. Use the time to be mindful. There's something called mindfulness, and they've done tons of scientific studies showing that mindfulness, or so other people call it meditation, really works. It is an anti-aging technique above all else. Some of that is deep breathing exercises. There's yoga you can do, which involves movement, or Tai Chi. And you can easily look up those things on the internet and, you know, learn how to do them. If you don't already, make sure you're doing them. And remember, 6 foot rule, not don't ever go outside rule. So you can go outside. If you have a dog, walk your dog. Just stay away that 6 footness from other people, and enjoy the environment. Depending, no matter where you are in this world, there is something to be enjoyed. Now, don't go with a whole group. Obviously, that's contrary to what we're trying to accomplish here. But notice the flowers, if there's flowers. Notice foliage, notice nature. Listen to water. All those different things. Play music that you love, that makes you happy, that will invoke in you a sense of calm and also just relaxation. And don't forget to get sleep. You have to get good, deep, restful sleep, because if you don't, then you're your nervous system gets on edge, and that's opposite of what we want. We want the nervous system to be relaxed, to feel good. So make sure you get at least 7 to 8 hours sleep a day. And if you don't, then try to get a little more the next night. So again, have fun in your off time, play games. You know, it's not about being a shut-in. It's about enjoying what you have around you. Okay, so don't forget to do that. Meditate, deep breathe, yoga, all those things really make a huge difference in your stress level that you need to calm. And if you're feeling bad, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you have those feelings like there's nothing that's fun, you're exhausted, you're overwhelmed, that is a sign that you need to call out for help. There is help available. There are telehealth centers where there's people you can talk to. Talk to your friends. You can use the phone. You can use the internet. You can use Skype. You can use Zoom. You can use all these tools. Help us stay connected while we're staying apart. I hope that makes sense. But use that so that you can decrease the stress in this actually particularly stressful time. So I hope that helped. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.